Hi, so this will be the second video, video 2 of 2 to introduce you to Temple's library resources. In the first video we kept it kind of broad and we browsed some broad topics in science and engineering through the library's website. And for this video that you're watching now, I'm going to assume that you found a topic, a broad topic that is appealing to you and that you think may be appropriate as, or that may lead you to a good topic for your project proposal. So we're going to get a little more in depth in doing the research. So I'll share my screen and you can just follow along. Okay, so let's get started by looking at a search strategy. You may have heard of Boolean operators. We're going to take a look at those here in this document, which will be uploaded to Canvas. So if you can just go back to the engineering guides, the engineering guide. Here it is. This is the home, the engineering research guide. But for now, let's just take a look at. There's a couple things on this file here. So just keep in mind that topics are multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. So you may be interested in, something that is outwardly electronic, but it may also involve bioengineering, or it may also involve mechanical engineering. Just about any type of device, for example, is going to have some electronics and some mechanical. So no matter what you're interested in, we can usually find a way to make it fit your major. We are thinking in terms of engineering problems, but in order to optimize your search strategy, you also want to think in terms of the positive version of that. So if the engineering problem, quote unquote, that you're thinking of is the CO2 emissions of cars, then the positive terms would be reduce emissions or improve fuel economy. So keep those positive terms, in this case reduce, improve, or alternatives, keep those in mind also as search terms, even though we're thinking we generally describe what we're looking for as a problem. So here's an example of some Boolean operators. You may have used things like this in Google. It's good practice to write all of the operator words in all caps. Some databases only require you to capitalize the first letter, others require that you capitalize all of them. So to keep it simple, if you just get in the habit of capitalizing them all, that'll make your life a little easier. And then you can group terms together using parentheses. Okay, so the main operators are and, or, and not. So in this case, the main search term is diesel, but we also want to include only results that also include marine or ship, as well as the terms improve or reduce or alternative, and fuel economy. I put it in quote because that's two words. Or emissions, but we are not interested in trucks and automobiles. Okay, so we can use this search strategy. This takes some experimentation to get what you're looking for. This is another area where you just have to use some patience and don't give up too quickly. You'll want to commit some time to experimenting with this to see what kind of results you get. So I'm just going to copy this, and then let's go over here to Compendex. This is a good database. And what we can do is I'll just paste this in here. Search. And I have 1,625 records. The first thing I do whenever I perform a search in these databases is see how many returns we get. And that gives you an indication, obviously, of how much material is available, but also if you're even looking in a field that's active. So then when you just want to take a look at some of the results. optimization of ship propulsion diesel engine to fulfill new requirements for exhaust emissions. Okay, anytime you see new requirements, that can indicate an engineering problem. In this case, new was in 2014, so that you might discount that. Particulate matter in marine diesel engine exhausts. Okay, that's a new term that we didn't see before, particulate matter. So you might make a note on that. Performance of marine diesel engine in propulsion mode. Okay, that's the second time I've seen the word propulsion. So I might keep that in mind. So you're just particulate matter, we see that again. Okay, so the terms particulate matter and propulsion. Propulsion is kind of a broad term within the field of shipping. But particulate matter, that looks interesting because we're seeing that at least twice on the first 5 results. So I may look further into that. That may lead us to a good engineering problem. Okay, so we can do that. We can do it that way. And then there's this controlled vocabulary function down here. I find this very useful. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this for now. And I'm just going to say marine diesel. I'm just going to type that in as a broad term, and we're going to get a large number of results. $15,000. Okay, I was actually expecting more than that. But anyway, so if you go down to controlled vocabulary, and then we click on view more. Okay, this is showing us all of the other terms that are related to marine diesel. So there's 5,721 that include the term diesel engine, and these are all different terms. So what you can do, you can just go through and you can just check these off. So maybe nitrogen oxides, we're looking for engineering problems. Nitrogen oxide sounds like a pollutant. Air pollution control. Exhaust gases. Okay, gas emissions. And then we can click on either limit to or exclude. In this case, I'm going to limit to. And now all the results are limited to those terms specifically. And now we have 956 records. A short review of treatment methods of marine diesel engine exhaust gases. That sounds like an interesting topic. Looking at the authors, let's see, we can limit it. Okay, so 221 results are coming from China and 70 are coming from the United States. You can use your judgment if you want to limit it to the United States. We can just try that. That would increase the chances that it was originally written in English, which is sometimes useful. An experimental study on fuel economy improvement of a marine diesel engine using a sequential turbocharging system. Okay, as I'm looking at these articles, what I'm looking for is an indication of an engineering problem and the hint of a solution. Okay, in this case, they're referring to fuel economy, improving fuel economy. That sounds like an engineering problem. And they're using a sequential turbocharging system. So I've already learned that a sequential turbocharging system can potentially be used to improve fuel economy on marine diesel engines. So a sequential turbocharging system could be one of your candidate solutions. If you can find 2 other types of turbocharging systems that are not sequential and that are sufficiently distinct from one another but can be compared by a common value, those could potentially be your 3 candidate solutions. I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Novel approaches to control emissions from marine diesel and gas turbine engines. Novel approaches. Okay, so those are new approaches to controlling emissions from marine diesel and gas turbine engines. If 3 of these approaches are comparable, they could serve as the candidate solutions. Just for fun, I'm going to click on this. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time looking at it, but they're referring to novel approaches. The first thing I would want to do is learn what are those novel approaches? What are they doing? And if three of those are comparable by a common unit of measure, then those could potentially be your candidate solutions. All right. I don't want to get too bogged down. I could get distracted, so I want to keep moving. But this controlled vocabulary function that we just looked at, definitely use that. I definitely recommend it. You can start out with, yes, here's a look at this long Boolean expression. Okay, because I limited it to the United States and some other things. But this controlled vocabulary function is kind of buried down here, but it's very useful because it gives you an idea what the research is talking about and where to look for good material. All right, moving on. So that's Compendex. Then there's novel. I never know how to pronounce this. I actually think it should be pronounced novel. The K and O must stand for no, like I know something, and the vel is like novel. But I would call this novel. I've always been confused about how to pronounce that, but I'm going to go with novel from now on. Anyway, you can click on this, go to it directly. Now, we had looked at novel earlier. We did the browse function. Let me see here. We did the browse function over here. That was pretty cool. We found some topics. You can also use this property search. Okay, this property open material property search. We will need units of measure to measure the engineering problem and to evaluate the candidate solutions. It can be a challenge to find the right units of measure for the problem and the solution. But this is a good place to start to get some ideas on units of measure. So these are physical properties, and then the subcategories density. I see what you can do. You can actually just drag that in here. Density. So if you want to find a material where density is I don't know, you don't even need to know the actual value, but just by selecting that density, you see density is measured in grams per cubic centimeter. At least that's one way of measuring it. Here's other ways of measuring density. Okay, specific gravity, for example. You can eventually use this to actually find materials, but to just get started, you can just get an idea of what the specific gravity. Okay, it's not giving us the units. Weight. Yeah, so if you're doing a materials-based solution, this can be useful. Permeability is sometimes useful. Mechanical properties, bearing, creep, elastic, feed, flexural, mechanical hardness, shear properties. If you're looking for a material that fulfills certain requirements, this is the place to go. Okay, that's novel. This Kirk-Othmer Encyclopedia of Chemical Technologies, honestly, I'm not that familiar with that. I'm going to skip over that one. Let's take a look at Web of Science. Here's Web of Science. You can get to that also from the engineering homepage, and you click on Web of Science, but here it is. This one as well, you can use the Boolean operators. You can also add rows. Okay, so let's just try it again. Diesel exhaust. That's our main term, that's our topic. And I wanted to include marine. Let's see if I can use Boolean operators here. Marine or ship. Yeah, so you could choose these different fields. I think we're best to just sticking with topic for now. Add another row, and we learned that term particulate. So I'm just going to add the word particulate. Reduce the time span to the past 5 years. I have no idea what's going to come up here. I did not try this earlier, so let's give it a whirl. Search. 88 results. I'm quite pleased with that. Characterization of particulate smoke and the potential chemical fingerprint of non-road construction equipment exhaust in China. Lots of results coming from China. Okay. Here's the organizations. Yeah, California. Okay. So, yeah, these are ways to get some more detailed searches. Here we go. Languages, countries, regions. United States 15. Let's try that. Characterization of particulate matter emitted by a marine engine operated with liquefied natural gas and diesel fuels. So we're learning little bits as we go along. You can also just go back to Google and search for particulate matter in diesel engines and learn more about it. You can use Wikipedia. You just need to spend some time exploring topics that jump out at you as being interesting. It does take time. It does take patience. Yeah, there's usually no way around that. Where are we? We did Web of Science. I had an error on InSpec last time I tried it. This is MatWeb. Some of you may be familiar with this. A student told me about this last semester. Okay, I'm getting trouble here. Okay, I'm continuing with MatWeb. I had some trouble logging into MatWeb last night, but I logged in now, and to use MatWeb, it looks advisable to create an account to get full access. So it's at matweb.com. I was introduced to this by a student last semester, and it looks very useful if you have a materials-based solution. This looks like a good source for getting the data you'll need. So here's all kinds of different properties depending on what your engineering problem is. You may need something that has a high tear strength or high tensile strength and also have certain thermal properties. You should be able to use this to do a detailed search and find materials that meet those, that fulfill those properties. So this, when we get into the comparison table, this will be useful because you'll need real data on the material or whatever solution it is. You'll need real data and have to be summarized in the table, and you'll cite the sources for that data in the text section. We'll get to that. Don't worry about that too much. When looking for if you're looking at a materials-based solution, this website should work. Let's leave it there. All right, what's next? Wolfram Alpha. Oh, didn't drink enough coffee yet this morning. All right, let's take a look at Wolfram Alpha. This is from a guy named Stephen Wolfram. I listened to his podcast. He's exceptionally knowledgeable about physics and math and science, everything you can imagine. I find his podcast very interesting. I enjoy him very much. Okay, so this is his website and his company. He's put together a few different technology related companies. The idea here is that you can find or calculate just about anything you want, and you can see the diversity of the categories. Everything. I mean, if you want to know the population of Chicago in 1920, it's probably in here somewhere. I don't even know where to start with this one. Units and measures. Let's take a look at that. That's relevant for us. Foot pound. What is a foot pound? I believe that's a measure of torque. Conversion units. Yeah, there's so much here. I don't know where to start. We may do a separate session on this. Just take a look at Wolfram Alpha, but I have to educate myself a little bit. Fashion sizes, if that's useful. Yeah, so that's Wolfram Alpha. I think this is the kind of thing that we might, as you develop your topic, we can kind of go through this stuff together, make more sense of it. Citation tools. There are different citation manager type tools through the Temple University library. They seem to change a lot. I've experimented with RefWorks and with EndNote. I did not find them useful, but you guys may find them useful. My recommendation, if you try these, see if you like them. Otherwise, just keep a list of sources on a Word document or even an Excel spreadsheet. We will be using something called Manage Sources. That's the Manage Sources function in Word. I find that to be most useful. As you cite sources, you just enter them into Word, and Word saves them for you, and then spitting out a list of your references is very easy. So I think we're going to leave it there. There's a lot of material here that we went through. So as always, comments, questions in the discussion. Thanks. Bye.